Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm OB Aidan.
And I am Gaynor.
Yeah, and today we have a Lost in the Pond, 4 Ways American English is pretty weird.
Yes.
Did you find it weird when you lived there and you heard people talking American English?
Mine more so was the spelling. I used to spell everything.
Yeah, they do have certain words like colour.
But also we'd use like an S and theirs would be a Z.
Oh, really? Let's find out. Let's see what Lawrence has to say. 4 Ways American English is pretty weird.
Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to English. Specifically, varieties of English that are spoken by American humans and children. Ever since my first poorly lit video, I've made several more in defense of American English. And that's because, as I said in this video, the story of American English, much like the story of language in general, is highly compelling. But it's also completely and utterly a little bit bonkers. How do I know? Because I've heard, read, and sometimes spoken it while living in the United States for the past 16 years. Whether we're talking about words that have the same meaning or regional variations that are completely unknown in other parts of the country, American English, like British English, is packed with quirks. And if you like quirky things and haven't subscribed to this channel, do that now! In the meantime, let's take a look at how American English is one bizarre variety of English. In case you've only just woken up, that transition slide did not say cinnamon rolls. We just couldn't think of a better pun for the word synonym. What's a synonym, Lawrence? Good question, Lawrence. A synonym is a word or phrase that has the same meaning as another word or phrase. For example, remember 3 weeks ago when I said this? Cougars, pumas, mountain lions, catamounts, and panthers. I'm being told those are different words for the exact same animal. Well, just like how the British have 348 words for drunk, the United States has a significant number of synonyms of its own, many of which are dependent upon where in the country you are. For instance, in the north, these curious crustaceans often go by the name of crayfish. However, in the deep south, where they are most commonly harvested, they are known as crawfish. But try telling that to people in the middle or in the west who might know them as crawdads. Freud would have had a field day with those people. He'd also have a field day with people who seek out my address. Ever since last year when I bought my first American house, I've received all kinds of weird things in the mail, and at no point did I make my address public. So how did people...
I thought...
How do people know?
Because crawfish tastes just like shrimp.
Does it?
And I also got confused the difference between prawns and shrimp.
Yeah.
Because they were both the same. So I thought that we called them prawns.
Shrimp are smaller, aren't they?
No, because you can get huge shrimp.
I thought prawns were just bigger versions of shrimp.
And crawfish, like when you eat them, taste just like shrimp. So I was just totally confused.
During that deeply beautiful brand integration, Max just told me that his family knew crawfish as mud bugs, which makes me think of woodlice.
What are woodlice?
It's what we Americans call roly-polies.
Actually, they're called potato bugs.
I don't even have a name for that
I've
thing.
never heard
Along
of
the
those.
Ohio River, my family called them pill bugs. Dude, these are doodle bugs.
Lawrence is lying. In England, we actually call them cheesy bugs.
That's regional.
In Devon, we call them chiggy pigs.
It's Parsons pigs.
Okay, clearly British English is the bonkers one.
Wow.
The point is, as a country with an area of 3.8 million square miles, you could say that the US might be even more prone to interregional synonyms than Britain. Then again, I remember when I first moved from my English hometown of Grimsby. No one at university knew what the word mardy meant, and mardy just means you're in a bad mood. Yes, and what I need you to...
I wouldn't say you're in a bad... If I said to you you're being marred, I wouldn't say you're being in a bad mood, would I?
Just like moody?
No, marred. To me, mardy is being soft.
I never use that word anyway, so...
You've never heard me say, stop being marred?
No. I don't think you do say that.
I used to when you were little.
Oh, really?
Stop being marred, which means stop being soft.
to do right now is to pay close attention to the previous transition slide. Are you serious? It almost looks like text speak, except in that case my team would have written it like this. Instead, only the word R is textified because it is the letter R that I want you to pay close attention to. You see, one of the defining linguistic traits shared by most, though not all Americans, is the post-vocalic R in words like, well, Mardy. Aside from the fact that it sounds like the name Marty in American English, Rhotic speakers in the US would more or less pronounce this regionally English word as Mardy. However, since moving to the United States, I've detected one or two exceptions to this rule. Number one, there are still small pockets of the US that remain non-rhotic, like most of England. Number two, as I've mentioned before, there are rare instances in which Americans will incorporate a post-vocalic R in words that don't have one, like kernel.
Colonel.
And C,
3.
and number three, there are peculiar instances of words that do have them, but for which the R is often unpronounced. Take, for example, the word forward. While most Americans pronounce it
Forward.
a phenomenon has emerged in recent decades in which some Americans drop the first R. In linguistic circles, this phenomenon is known as dissimilation. That's when speakers drop a vowel or consonant if it appears later within the same word. And it owes much to the principle of horror equi, which proposes that language users psychologically avoid repetition of identical linguistic structures. That's why some Americans might also dissimilate the first R in words like governor, berserk, and particular.
Moving forward, the governor in particular will go completely berserk. Larry.
Yeah, it's a free kick. While consecutive instances of the letter Z have inexplicably come to denote the sound of snoring, they also show up with surprising frequency in words that were coined in the United States. Perhaps the most famous is jazz, a world-renowned form of music that emerged out of the African-American communities of New Orleans from the late 19th century. It is widely believed that the word jazz evolved out of jasm, which meant vitality or energy and not what you're thinking about, you little... In fact, it went through several definitions before lending itself to an entire genre of music, something that first occurred right here in Chicago in 1915. And the jazz age that followed spawned several Z-heavy words like snazzy, pizzazz, Twizzlers, and future astronaut Buzz Aldrin. So it was perhaps little wonder that one of the nation's favourite meals became so popular at about that time. Pizza. In fact, you kind of have to wonder if it would have had the staying power in the United States if the Italians had named it something without Zs, like bread pie. That certainly wouldn't have led to America also giving us the word pizzeria from 1928. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, Z-heavy words were just one of many fads of the jazz age. One era doesn't a dataset make? Then know this, more than 20 years before jazz entered the lexicon, American English also gave us razzle-dazzle, razzmatazz, and almost certainly blizzard. They have 10 Zs between them. And in the years since, American English has rolled out buzzcut, ZZ Top, and most recently Riz, a slang form of the word charismatic, which today is appropriately popular with Gen Z. So what does all of this tell us? It could tell us that Americans are guided by their senses. Many of the words that I listed are partly or fully onomatopoeic. What does onomatopoeic mean, Lawrence? Onomatopoeic words are words that sound like the thing they are describing, whether it is the buzz of a razor or the sizzle of pepperoni. Either that or the American Scrabble Union just really wanted to raise the stakes. That said, there's at least one such word for which the United States can't take credit, and that word is drizzle, which emerged in England many centuries ago and hasn't stopped emerging since. As evidenced by the word forward, Americans can't always agree on how a word should be delivered, and this is by no means unique to America. In Britain, we're still fighting wars over how to say this. It's a scone.
It's a scone.
But sometimes American English takes things a step further. Sometimes a word is delivered differently because subtly it is a different word. There are members of my wife's family alone who describe their favourite vices as addictive, and others who say addicting, a word I'd not heard until moving to the United States. Similarly, familial lines are also drawn on whether one does something by accident or on accident. Here you go. Sorry. That was on purpose, actually. Americans are often ridiculed for saying "I could care less" because "I could care less" implies that they care a lot. In other words, so goes the logic, "I couldn't care less" would be more, well, logical. But from what I've seen, half of the people doing the ridiculing are Americans themselves. You see, the real divide in this country is not between right and left, it is between those who could care less and those who couldn't, a bit like me on this issue.
One of the things that I always thought was weird was we call it maths and Americans call it math.
Yeah.
They'd say, I'm going to do some math.
Because you shorten it from mathematics, aren't you? And that ends with an S.
Yeah.
That's why we probably put the S at the end of maths.
Yeah. And also I had a friend who was called Martin and he went, it's Martin. And I went, there's a T in it, Martin. And he went, it's Martin.
Martin. Yeah, I mean, some people, it's just the accent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Martin.
The truth is, English is itself quirky, whether we're talking about British English, English of the United States, or that of other countries that Britain invaded. Without this quirkiness, the English language probably wouldn't be half as interesting, and I'd be stuck making videos about just animals. Actually, on that note, I have to run now because a certain doggy of mine is being prepped for a starring role in my next video. Bye!
Larry, that was a little abrupt.
Well, I mean, data shows that viewers click away during those meandering goodbyes, so I figured we'd get around it by not letting them.
Okay, but you didn't tell them to continue binging by watching the Why American English is Highly Misunderstood video.
Max, if our audience is as smart as you think they are, then they'll figure it out.
You better be right.
I'm always sometimes right.
Jesus. That was quite an educational video,
was,
to be fair, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's quite a few that we've done like that with about the pronunciation of words and stuff like that. But
It was good though.
Yeah, I've never seen him do that before. But yeah, like I say, it was good.
Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe for us, please, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Cheers.